It's the 13th of July 2024, Butler, Pennsylvania. Trump is doing a speech at a rally. Hidden on a roof, there's a gunman lining up his sight. He is just minutes into his speech until shots were fired.
What happened?
Trump got hit, but survived. However, the world came just inches away from a very different outcome. So what would have happened if he didn't survive? How would this have shaped the world? Who would replace him? Would this change US politics forever? Throughout US history, presidential assassinations have changed the course of the nation. Lincoln's death in 1865 shook a country still healing from a civil war. JFK's assassination in 1963 left Americans in shock and altered global politics. Even attempted assassinations like Reagan's in 1981 reshaped security and government protocols such as stricter crowds and more advanced screening upon arrival to any kind of political march or rally. To understand the stakes of this, we need to look at where America stood in mid-2024.
I am tonight announcing my candidacy for President of the United States.
Trump was not the president at this point, but he was a very dominant figure in US politics, leading the polls and controlling the Republican Party's direction. Political tensions were at their highest point in decades, and threats against public officials had surged. This rally wasn't just another campaign stop. It was televised, symbolic, and a pivotal moment to the outcome of the 2024 election. If the gunman had succeeded in his plans, the immediate consequences would have been staggering. The Secret Service would rush Trump away, attempting emergency treatment. Alarms would trigger across the White House, the FBI, and Homeland Security. An instant crisis mode would be activated. Media outlets are scrambling to verify information and get as much knowledge on the situation as possible. Many nearby areas would be locked down, such as airports, hospitals, and many government buildings all over the country, as the crowd that witnessed the assassination would be rushed out of the venue with chants of distress, fear, and trauma.
One shot right here, Mike. One shot right here.
Investigators would scramble to determine if the shooter acted alone or as a part of a larger conspiracy. Meanwhile, the Republican Party would go into emergency meetings discussing potential successors behind doors. Here's where things get complicated. The US has a clear line of succession if a sitting president dies. In this hypothetical scenario, J.D. Vance, Trump's trusted advisor and current vice president, would likely be the immediate successor. Trusted by Trump, popular among MAGA supporters, and was a fan favorite among some of the swing states, he would serve as a unifying figure for the party. If Trump was actively in office, the presidency and all ongoing operations would instantly transfer to Vance, as he is currently the vice president in 2025. The country would have a new leader immediately. When anything happens to the US president, the presidency is always instantly handed to the vice president under the Constitution. This is what happened with Lyndon B. Johnson in 1963 after JFK was assassinated. This hypothetical assassination would plunge the nation into political chaos. Republican leaders would debate the party's future, with factions potentially forming around different successors. Democrats would align their strategy, emphasizing stability, security, and the importance of democratic institutions. Public opinion would shift dramatically, with potential sympathy for Trump's supporters and outrage from opponents. The 2024 election would be altered, and the political landscape would be reshaped forever. Markets react instantly to political instability. On the day of the assassination, the S&P 500 would likely drop sharply. Oil prices could skyrocket as uncertainty grips global markets. Gold and other safe haven assets would surge, while cryptocurrencies might see wild volatility. Investors would spend weeks digesting the impact, unsure who would lead the country or what policies might change, and trying to predict their next move. Within 24 hours, flags at the White House will be ordered to half-staff and federal investigations would begin. National mourning would commence with ceremonies broadcasted worldwide. Allies such as the United Kingdom, Japan, and many European nations would issue public condolences, while adversaries would quietly reassess their strategies. The assassination would dominate global headlines. Meanwhile, protests could erupt across the country. Social media would explode with hashtags, conspiracy theories, and intense debate. The country would be watching, waiting, and fearing the unknown. If the shooter survived, they would face the full weight of US law. Anyone who assassinates a US president is automatically eligible for the death penalty. The FBI and Department of Justice would launch one of the largest investigations in US history. Media coverage and public perception could heavily influence the trial, shaping history for many decades. Presidential assassinations are rare, but their consequences are enormous and raise political tensions. Could the assassination have changed the 2024 election outcome? It's impossible to say for certain, but the ripple effects would be enormous. Voter turnout would likely shift dramatically, driven by fear, sympathy, or extreme outrage from many all over the world. Regardless of the outcome, the assassination would be the defining moment of the decade. Trump's legacy would be a flashpoint in international political discourse. Social media debates and documentaries would flood all platforms all over the world. In week 2, an official autopsy and cause of death will officially be announced. History reminds us how fragile democracy can be in moments of crisis. A single event can change the course of a nation, alter political landscapes, divide populations, and shock the world. Trump surviving that day was just inches away from history taking a drastically different path. And while we can only speculate, one thing is certain: the repercussions of such an event would be remembered forever. If you enjoyed, feel free to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.